Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Walters Wanderings Travel Podcast. My name is Scott Walters. We'll introduce our guest in just a minute, but I did want to let you know that I do have a special promotion. If you mention the word Beatles, as in Paul, George, Ringo, and the other guy, John, you'll be able to go ahead and get $50 off of any trip to England or Great Britain, because that's where the Beatles started. Although some would say they started in Germany, but their real legs got started in England. So if you want to go to England or Great Britain, we can accommodate you, and I'll give you $50 off your trip if you use the word Beatles when you contact Walters Wanderings Travel. And speaking of the Beatles, we have a guy here who, full disclosure, went to high school with me. He graduated a couple of years before me, but I still remember him from those days, and ever since. He does all kinds of Beatles and other music and has been doing that for years and years, more years than he can count and I can remember. Our guest today is John Babcock. John, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Scott. How are you doing? Looking good.
I'm trying my best to look good and to sound good and to be good, but sometimes I still fall short, but that's the way it goes.
That's right.
So I want to start not at the beginning of your career post high school and all of that, but I want to start sort of in the middle, because for years and years you were part of something rather unique in that you were part of a Beatles tribute show that performed at the Epcot theme park at Disney World.
Yeah.
I guess, talk about that experience. And I guess what I want to know is, what were the years and how many shows did you actually do?
Well, the group was called the British Invasion, and we were in the UK Pavilion at Epcot Center, and I started the show with them in '97, June of '97, and I was there for 11 years and did 17,000 plus shows.
17,000. Now the show works basically is it's like a 20 to 30 minute set of Beatles music with a little banter maybe in between.
Yeah, it was the whole thing was about 30 minutes. It was about 20 to 25 minutes of songs, and then we went down and did a meet and greet with the guests. So yeah, it was about 30 minutes in length, and we did 5 shows a day, 6 days a week.
Wow, at least you got a day off. Now the ironic thing is I undoubtedly saw you and didn't realize it was you.
That's funny. Yeah.
Now, was it the same set list for all the years, or were you able to vary what you played?
No, we probably had 250 songs to choose from, and it wasn't just the Beatles stuff. It was a mixture that, a la British Invasion. We did the Stones and the Who and Jerry and the Pacemakers, and heavy on the Beatles, the Searchers. We did a lot of all the British stuff, really big hits from the 60s. And so it was a mixture. It was about 60% Beatles, 40% of the other groups, and we mixed it all up. But we had a big song bag to draw from over the years. Yeah.
Well, that is excellent. And again, obviously that gig came to an end, and I'm sure you were sad and glad at the same time. When it came to an end. But
yeah, it was a great experience to be a Disney performer, to work for the mouse, as they say. But the cool thing is that all of us met lifelong friends that were fans that became friends that still to this day come and see me and the guys from Epcot. We still work together in different situations. 2 of the guys I work with is in my present McCartney show. So, and we've been playing together for 25 years since the early Epcot days. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And that can actually be helpful to have such loyal fans and loyal bandmates, because it makes for a better show and tighter music, obviously, because you know each other's tendencies.
Yeah, it's really cool. One of the fellas also that actually was the lead guy on the show, named Sean Bryant. I play with him sometimes, and actually we have a Beach Boys tribute band called the Beach Buoys, and I play drums for him occasionally in that band. So not only do I have my friends Jimmy and Leo from Epcot playing in the McCartney thing, I occasionally do still go back to my roots and play drums. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now,
the Beach Boys shirt, see?
There you go. Well, you gotta have the vibe. So now, before the Disney time, you did a lot of recording and work in the New York City metropolitan area.
Yeah.
What were some of the highlights from that?
Well, let's see. Working at the record plant was a good friend of mine from the back in my Four on the Floor days. Some of your listeners might remember a band from the early into the mid '80s called Four on the Floor. We were a pretty successful original and cover band throughout the tri-state area. We played at Nyack at the Office. We played at a place called One Potato, Two Potato there, and we played all over the tri-state area. And Mark Davenport is one of my friends that he lives out in Colorado now. And we after Four on the Floor, we did some original projects, and we did a show, a record at the record plant, and the band was called The Late Show, and that was very cool because we got to record in that studio where John Lennon did, and John and Yoko did their last album, Double Fantasy, and that was only 7 years after his death. So it was very interesting to do that, playing at recording at the record plant, the Hit Factory. So yeah, it was a lot of fun doing your own stuff down there. Yeah,
that's good stuff. Now, you also obviously took the show on the road, more than once, whatever show it was you were doing. I know you indicated that, when you're taking a show on the road, you have to sometimes drive a distance, and you say you have some good music for being on the road. What are some of your favorite songs and groups and albums / CDs that you would listen to when you're driving distance?
Well, like you say, you're a little bit younger than me, but you will remember mixtapes. Okay, because we at that time in the early '80s, I mean, my '67 Mustang that I was driving at the time had a pretty cool cassette deck in it, so I would make these mixtapes. But the one album that was my go-to album to go on the road is this one right here, the iconic Deep Purple Machine Head with the iconic driving song Highway Star. Right there it is.
I'm your highway star.
Highly recommended. Highway Star. That's the one. You got to have that to go on the road. Yeah.
Well, I'm a big. I like good, instrumental drive music, and then when you have driving, melodies and driving instrumentals and driving guitar work, that can get me into trouble with the local police as I drive along, because I'll get a little heavy foot and I'll sing along. So I know exactly how it goes.
Yeah.
Now, in your history of performing, you indicated to me earlier that you actually performed in front of groups of audiences, crowds as large as like 10,000 people or more. Yeah. What's that like, as opposed to, say, playing in a club with 300?
Well, you don't have the intimacy. That's the thing that most performers could relate to, is that, you get a small club, even if it's only 50 people in there, 50 to 100 people, it's a little bit more intimate. And these days I'm doing more shows like that with the Paul McCartney, Paul is All tribute that I do. When the British Invasion went out as the cast of Beatlemania, or it just was Beatlemania that we went out under, because as long as you had one person in the band that was on the original original play in the 70s in New York, then you could go out underneath that banner. And when we went out and did that, we did back in 2001, I think it was 2001, 2002. We did a 3-week tour, 14 cities, and I played in front of, I think the biggest show we did was about 14,000. That's not too bad for a tribute band. It's not
right,
like
a cover tribute band who, for lack of a better term, does for cosplay, as we would call it now. Back in 2002, we didn't even have that terminology, but there you were. Now in the band, you were Paul, right?
Yeah, I did John Lennon actually.
You did John.
On that tour, I did Paul, but I actually did John Lennon when I first went into Epcot, because it wasn't really. Just like I said, it was more of a generic thing, but I played that position, rhythm guitar, keyboards, and did the Beatles songs. And when I did the Beatles songs, I would do John Lennon. But for that tour, the 14 cities, I did Paul. That was the first time I went and did it like major, and that was 2001.
Did you do it left-handed?
No. No. When once in a while, people would come up and say, you look like him, you sound like him, you sound just like him. Oh, thanks, yeah, love the show. But you don't play left-handed. I say, I'm the mirror image of him, man. I'm the mirror
Oh, there
image.
you go. Now you see that's a perfect answer. Being the
Yeah,
mirror image.
that's
That's
true.
perfect. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't ask him to play right-handed. Yeah.
Well, listen. Listen.
Well, we
I
have
don't play any-handed except for when on Guitar Hero. I actually play left-handed, but that's a different. That's a different story for a different time.
yeah,
Now, you also spent some time in jolly old England because I had mentioned England in my promo,
yeah,
and you actually did do a lot of recording at the most famous studio of them all, perhaps Abbey Road. Talk
yeah.
about that for a minute.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. I did a lot of it. I started going over there. I went over for a visit to just check the studios out in 1984. Went on my own. I had a single out that I recorded down at in Hackensack, New Jersey. That was released. It was an early independent release, and it got a lot of airplay in the tri-state area. It actually charted at number 20. Got to number 20, broke the top 20 in Rockland, and it was called "Always Be Around." That was what I was bringing over there, and I was looking for publishing deals, and I had some people help me out with some things over there. And while I was over there, I got to go visit the studios, and I went in for a 2-hour tour in there, and I decided I've got to come back and record in the Beatles' iconic Studio 2. So 6 months later, I went over, and from 1985 to 1995, every 2 years, I'd go over and record at the studio. And I do and all my original stuff. It's all my own JB music. So I would do 2-3 songs each time I go over, and put it on the next CD, which is available now. So it's in my catalog. Yeah.
Here you go. Well, that's great. Now, when you travel over to England, what do you find? What did you find to be the most similar as far as musical taste, and maybe most dissimilar when you're over there?
Musical taste?
Yeah, of the people.
Uh, you know, it's I found like, well, I was in the clubs a lot, in the 80s over there. So the dance music was going on and all that kind of stuff. So I was really I heard stuff over there that I never heard in the States, which was interesting, musically. The people over there, it's funny, I found that at that time, even though they appreciated and loved the Beatles because that's something they own, they were so used to having the Beatles there that it was kind of, no big deal to them, especially when I went to Liverpool. When I drove up to, went to Liverpool, it's like, oh yeah, the Beatles, like that. But for us, it was iconic to go there. And, for me, it was iconic to go to the birthplace of the Beatles. And, it's more special for everybody coming to them opposed to themselves. It's interesting. It's different.
No, I understand that. I can see that. It's like I've seen similar things some places in the States where we sort of I wouldn't say take it for granted, but we have a much more laid back attitude towards certain things.
Yeah.
Than people coming in to be tourists and want to go ooh and ah. The ooh and ah factor doesn't play for us so much, but it plays for people coming in. I get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're still currently doing the music thing.
Yep.
After all these years. You've had basically a 40-year career, which is just outstanding. And you've carved out your little niche. Tell us about a couple of shows you're having coming up that are in my local area, which is in Rockland County, New York. But tell us about those upcoming shows you have next month.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is the second time of playing it in Piermont, New York, and in Nyack, New York, my hometown. I came up and did some shows last year, but I've got some new things I'm doing this time around, and it would be at the Up Lounge. I'm doing Paul McCartney tribute, solo Paul McCartney tribute at the Up Lounge, October 13th. Showtime is 6:30. It's $20 at the door, and it's a beautiful place right on Main Street in Nyack. And so you can go, hopefully I'll get some old friends from Nyack to come down. I'm hoping some of my alumni, Nyack High School friends will come by and say hello that I haven't seen in years. And then the other show is the following week on October 21st at the Turning Point, the legendary Turning Point in Piermont, New York. Showtime's 8 p.m. Tickets are available at piermont.club, or you can get them at the door. I think they're $26.50. And the shows are different. The McCartney show at the Up Lounge, tribute to Paul McCartney. The other one at the Turning Point is called Beatles 101. It's a magical history tour of the Beatles. So I go through and tell stories about the Fab Four from beginning until their breakup in 1970.
I think, and I will say about the Turning Point, it is, again, we're talking a club holds just a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
So obviously tickets at Piermont.club should get them early, so you don't get shut out.
Absolutely.
But the Turning Point has had many different acts come in, everything ranging from, I think the Average White Band actually played there. I know some other groups have played there, and it's really quite a nice setting. And you can still grab a drink and maybe even some grub while you watch the show. So I recommend that. In the Up Lounge in Nyack, it's just if people who are not familiar with Nyack who want to see John, just note that the parking situation in Nyack is always a terrible, problematic thing.
Challenging.
It is challenging. Yes, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
But there is a municipal lot not too far from this Up Lounge, and the Up Lounge is a nice place. Again, you'll be able to get your drink and some grub and enjoy John. It's a dinner time type show, it's actually on my anniversary, so I'll probably try to take my bride and come on down for a little anniversary, a little anniversary treat. So I look forward to that. Now, where can we find your music and where can we find your presence online?
Right there. paulisalltribute.com as the website just for the McCartney show and for the Beatles 101. And babcockmusic.com is where my career stuff is and all my original music. You can go and hear songs from all the albums that I put out, and 11 albums I've released over the years, and my 12th one is on its way to be out in 2023.
So that's Babcock Music, BABCOCKMUSIC.com. We'll take care of that. And Paul is all tribute. You can figure out the spelling of that easy enough. Just put it all together. No dashes, no dots, no nothing. And that's all set.
Yep.
So this is great. Do you before we go, do you have a funny story on the road or at a show or something where you just had to just laugh really hard and hurt yourself?
Yeah, I've got one for you. When I do Beatlemania tour with the British Invasion that I told you about earlier, that was 14 cities, and we started off at Little Rock, Arkansas, and we ended up in New Mexico. I believe it was near the end of the tour, and I think we played Denver, Colorado. That was towards the end of it. But on the way we flew from Orlando to Arkansas, and then we were in a van driving all the way to Portland, Oregon. So it took us a while to get there, and we had multiple drivers. I did some of the driving as well, and we had snowstorms and all kinds of stuff going through on our way to Portland. But the cool thing was that along the way, there was just one recurring road sign that said 500 miles to the thing. And then it would say 400 miles, you're getting closer to, come and see the thing. They kept on saying the thing. And we're looking at this thing as we're driving, Look, I said, oh man, great marketing. Of course, there's no way that we cannot stop and see what this thing is. So we're driving 500-600 miles. And then finally we're getting down. Now it's counting down 20, 50 miles, 40, almost there, 40 miles. So finally we go into this, and it's like our little rest area, very old, and we're almost in Portland. And we go in there, and it's just, you can see these old cars, and it's like an antique museum. And so you've arrived to see the thing. So we go in there. It's like $5 to get in. We paid it. We go in, okay, let's see the thing. Whatever. We go in there, and there's lots of things. I mean, there's old cars and old farm equipment. There's all kinds of stuff. And we get in there, and finally at the end of it, there's the thing. And the thing is, it was a mummy. They didn't say what it was or who it was. It was a mummy in a sarcophagus with a little baby mummy next to it. And that was the thing. And then when you went out of there, you could get, the little kiosk there, they had little things you could take away, and it said, I saw the thing. So yeah, that was a wonderful thing. And it was just so funny just going to see the thing.
Well, it almost sounds like the West Coast equivalent of south of the border.
Yeah,
in South Carolina there.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. But
very similar. But they didn't have, south of the border, they don't have the thing.
no, they don't have the thing. They just have their little sombrero and they have Pedro, but they don't have
fireworks.
And yeah, apparently so. Once you get across the border, no doubt.
Yeah.
I trust me. I have driven by there and I've stopped there in my day, and yeah, they'll try and get you, but well, they only got me for a little ding. I had to get my daughter a hat, so there you have it. Yes. All right, John, listen, it's been great being with you on this edition of the Walters Wandering Travel Podcast. Once again, for all the listeners out there, if you mentioned the word Beatles, being that this would be one of the themes of the podcast here, I will get you $50 off of any trip to England or Great Britain. And if you ask me nicely, I might extend the offer to other trips to other places too. So I really appreciate it. I thank John Babcock for being on board with us. Everyone take care and have a great day. And don't forget, there'll be another edition of the podcast up soon.